I was born here in Alaska. This is my country. I lived here all my life. This was my father's country before me. Every year we used to hunt the moose and the bear, and we would go trapping for mink and beaver. And always we fished for the salmon. Now I don't hunt and fish much anymore.
You are Athabascan, respected elder of the village of Tyonek. For you, the past is still alive in 1984. You remember the old songs and dances and old friends found only in memory and in the pages of a family album, an album filled with the joys and sorrows of a people who survived in the harsh land of the Tubughna. You are Bunny Swan, a child of change, yet you sing of your ancestors who were among the first people of Alaska. You sing a lament for the passing of old ways.
Where are the drums? Where have the dancers gone? Still remember, or are their memories gone, never to return, never to return? Oh God of the forest and the sky and the sea and me, teach us to be one with you again, teach us how to see. Teach us to be one with you again. You fed us when the world was free. You fed us when the world was free. You fed us when the world was free.
A long time ago, our grandfathers and great-grandfathers came here. They lived on the beach. They walked on the stones. The stones fell down. The stones sang Tubughna. That's how we got our name, Tubughna, people of the beach.
O people of Tubughna, into your ancient ways sailed the great Captain Cook in 1778. On May 29, Lieutenant John Rickman of the expedition wrote,
Today we were scouring the woods for game when 60 Indians rushed out, all armed with bows and spears. Our Marines discharged their pieces over their heads, which instantly stopped their career.
And so your lives were changed forever. Did you hold a council of war? Did you plan revenge with bow and arrow for this invasion of your land? These inlet waters touched by Captain Cook are some of the most dangerous in the world. They have taken many of your lives. But they have given you life As well, life lived on the water and in tiny cabins in a wilderness of trees and flowers until a great change came in the 60s. By the 80s, your tiny world is upside down, and you are flying to and from the big city of Anchorage nearly every day. And you are landing in the village on a modern gravel airstrip. Back before the 50s, you flew mainly for emergencies to get someone to the hospital. Then you landed and took off on the beach. And when you flew over the tide flats in the spring, you would always see a moose or two, or play with a grizzly on the way. Normally, you would make this dangerous trip by dory to sell furs and bring home supplies. But now, let us go back before the winter of '64, when the great change begins. I remember you said, our kids get up in the dark, play in the dark, and go to bed in the dark. Tubughna life then is hunting and fishing, or running a trap line from sunrise to sunset. And life is a dog team and a winter moose camp. And life is a Tubughna village frozen on a clear, still morning in spring. And life is a winter food cache to keep the wolves away. And a homemade water tower that is frozen now. And your children playing games they learn from another culture.
But she goes the wrong way.
10. Ready or not, I'm coming.
I know she'd go the wrong way.
And life is keeping warm the best way you know how. And smoke from a chimney telling you someone is alive. But your greatest joy is working together for the village, right now at the old steam sawmill, cutting house logs for a new family, the day before Good Friday. And the next day, trudging through the last snow of spring to the only church in the village, and worshiping together in the Orthodox faith brought to you from Russia in 1794. You love your children, like you, little Jenny, crouching in a forest of legs, while you contemplate the wonders of a time you will not remember. But we'll freeze this moment so you will know of it when you grow up. But now it is spring, and the rivers are still frozen. And then the melting begins, and you wait for the violence of the breakup. The breakup can tear off 1,000 tons of glacier face like cutting a piece of cake. And it can tumble blocks of ice bigger than houses down the rivers and into the sea. Here in the sea, the winter dies in a great flame over the inlet. The long freeze devours the coal you gathered in the fall. Now you must dig more that is washed out of the beach in the last storm of winter. Mujik, you are one of the old ones in your tiny shack, which is a poor shield against the cold. And it takes a lot of wood to keep it warm. But you have another shield, a faith in God and the saints of Orthodoxy, to warm the soul.
Господи Иисусе Христе, Сыне Божий, молитврати пречисти Твоей Матери, преподобных и богоносных Отец наших, и всех святых помилуй нас. Аминь.
Grandmother Alawan, no child ever left your house hungry. Some who came never left at all. Mama Kaloa, you mend a shirt for your grandson to wear when he travels to the blue water to hunt seal with his father, Albert Jr., leader of the tribe. Your skilled hands mean survival on the land and on the sea. You are a proud flesher and softener of hides. And your sinew is so fine, you can thread it through a needle. We must freeze it for the album. Today you wear your dentalium necklace and you share your dinner with us. And we are honored. Thank you. Martha Alexan, you serve Russian tea and smoked salmon you call balik on this special day when you will learn by radio whether or not the village will be compensated by oil companies already drilling on your lands.
That was a bit of old Russia. Now by the Kenai clock, it is 5:45 p.m. Here's a word from our sponsor.
All the battery-powered radios in the village are tuned to KFQD and your favorite news editor, Herb Schendlin.
Business as usual. The increasingly bitter debate over money for the village of Tyonek from the oil and gas lease sale may finally have come to an end. While it raged, it included Interior Secretary Stuart Udall, the Bureau of Indian Affairs Director Robert L. Bennett, Village Chief Albert Kaloa.
Jerry and Fiona, 8 of you in this tiny cabin, dream of a house where water doesn't freeze on the floor.
We have learned that a promise has been made by BIA Chief Bennett that the oil and gas money will be used for the benefit of the Tyonek residents. And that means Tyonek is rich.
Now, before progress comes to the village, you turn back 150 years to a time when your ancestors lived with the seasons and built for the moment. Don, Shirley, and Anthony, you perform an old story about a Tubughna trapper who travels to the Russian post at Kenai to trade furs for a rifle. You are the trapper, Don, and you take your son and one of your 4 wives.
He took me because I was the best flesher and softener of hides. But I was heavy with a baby. So we had to camp until the baby was born.
A camp means fire, and fire is safety and warmth. And fire is flint and quartz and dry punk and moss, carried in a skin bag under your tunic. And fire is patience while you nurse a spark into flame.
I gathered grass for a birthing bed, but I could not be by myself during my time before the baby came, and I had no mothers to help me. My mother said I was pretty when I was a girl. She came from Kenai, where my father brought her. She used to braid my hair and pile it on top of my head, and I would put oil on it, and feathers, and beads, and she would make a face. But now my hair is gone, and I'm not pretty anymore. The baby was a girl, and I was glad, but she died. I wrapped her in a marten skin, and I put her under the roots of a tree, and I covered her with rocks to keep the wolves from eating her.
Your temporary camp has stretched into several weeks, but now your hides are fleshed and softened and ready for the trade. And you have enough to stack to the height of a long rifle, for that is what it will cost you. In the cabin of the Russian, there is challenge and tension. You both know the trade is uneven, but you, the Tubughna, do not know how unfair are the odds. You are not aware that the furs you trade will buy 3 farms with buildings and livestock in Russia. But you want the rifle, so you finish the trade and challenge the Russian by grabbing a necklace of trade beads. The Russian backs down, for to him the necklace is merely a worthless trinket. To you, it is a small compensation of pride, and who knows, one day you may even the odds. In this story, Don, you are an Atna, one of your eastern neighbors who trade with the Tlinkits for dentalium, the seashell called Tubughna, an Athabascan symbol of wealth. You offer furs for the shells, but he wants an iron knife traded into your hands all the way from Europe. At last, you surrender the knife, and a trade of equal value is achieved. This ritual has linked Alaska's native people for centuries, until the Russian traders came to the great land. The Russian traders bring customs and traditions foreign to your way of life. They abuse and kill many of your people, and when some of you fight back, they drive you from your homes with rifle and cannon, and leave you with a heartache that will never quite heal. But then the Russian monks come to soften the harsh edges of the fur trade and replace the spirits of nature with the god of orthodoxy. And the rituals and the symbols of the new faith take hold and are alive to this day. Then the Americans come, looking for gold, and you tell a story of a prospector taking gold from Tubughna land. The prospector gives a nugget to the Tubughna, and the Tubughna returns it to the earth, which is an ancient custom when dealing with useless objects. With each invasion for furs or gold, with each new form of transportation, your tools and clothes and weapons, and finally, your old ways will change. And your children try to keep up with the new learning. But right now, learning is about over for this last year in the government school, the only mansion in the village. This is your last hour of study. Or is it make-believe? Emil Jr., are you there? I know where you are. You're at the swimming hole. At last, the freedom of the wind and the birds. When summer begins, school finds no home in the heart. Today, the heart is in the tide pool at 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Little Jack, remember your dad said if you want to go fishing, you have to stay out of the mud.
Okay.
Did you stay out of the mud?
Yep.
The salmon are running, and the government is checking the nets before tomorrow when the season begins. You are Albert Kaloa Jr., leader of your people, and you set your nets because tradition is stronger than the promise of riches from oil. Chickalushan. For you, dear lady, tradition is stronger than age. At 80 years, with an elemental wisdom that is older than time, you carry more than half your weight in salmon. It is the cycle of the seasons. It is what you do with a net and a knife in the time of the salmon. As you climb the hill to prepare the dinner you just caught, I cannot help but feel that your life is a portrait of the people who do what they must do with a net and a knife and the sun and smoke in the spring. And your handiwork dances in the sun. And when you, Alexandra, build the fire and the smoke begins to rise, I have the impression that here in the light of the old smokehouse, an artist has been at work, painting a silent portrait of the way of life of the Tubughna. Then comes the machine to break your paths into roads and your earth into gravel and concrete for the foundations of houses without chimneys. Some of you try to save old cabins for fish camps. And you lose 4 children in an accidental fire. A kind of fever comes over the village. And you can't wait to see your new houses delivered in a box like the hodgepodge of a jigsaw puzzle. But now there is no turning back. When the construction men fly off for the weekend, the silent machines become fun houses at a carnival. But then comes the fall picnic, a time to say goodbye to the soft days of summer. And young Albert, you and your granddad frolic in the new boat you just built. And one of you consumes the picnic and the ice cream, and you fall asleep and dream of little girls in a world upside down, as summer fades away in the most exciting moment of your life. Thousands of barrels of oil flow out from under the sea right in the village front yard, while you, Father Oskalkov, pull your nets out for the winter. One day you will learn of the endless cycle of life, but now you're determined to save this old dead salmon from the hungry gulls. Now is the time for darkness, a time for cold, a time for sleep, and a time to wait for spring, when building will start again. It is spring now, and new houses sit smugly side by side with old cabins waiting to be destroyed. And everything is frozen, waiting for the big thaw. As you inspect your village, Albert, you dream of helping the other villages in Alaska. You once said our old ways were simple. We didn't need a thawing machine because we had no pipes to freeze. Only the thawing machine interrupts a quiet morning, but I think there's about to be another interruption.
Let's bust bottles.
How come there's so many of them?
Because everybody's celebrating.
The village is a giant playground full of exotic toys and rivers of mud.
Hey, Marco, stay out of the river.
Oh, what fun it is to play bulldozer with a cable spool. You're the last of the water packers, Virgil. But I think you'll soon be out of a job. The last smoke pours from your chimneys and your children play in the graveled roads of a village that has become important to America. And right now, Albert, you seem to be important to National Geographic.
This is Marco. This is not baby.
Is that your baby?
No, you're
What?
you're 6 now.
I know.
This boy I delivered here in this house here.
You delivered it, the baby?
Yeah. So we call him this is our baby.
At your new house, you share your hopes with National Geographic's Will Garrett.
We decided, instead of giving the individual disbursement of money, to have the money work for the people as a whole.
And the people as a whole are moving in and tapping into the wonders of television.
Isn't it?
But when it is over, where will the lamps and the candle holders go? And the axes, chopping blocks, and neck yokes? Will they become artifacts for future archaeologists? Today, Father, you bless the houses of the people so they may find joy and peace in them. Thank you, Mujik, for letting us share this moment of change in your life. With your icon in place, it's time for coffee. You miss the fast heat of the old barrel stove. You didn't invite Billy Graham, but here he is, popping into your house at the turn of a switch.
Why would he love us so much that he gave his son to die on the cross for our sins? Why would that son say while they were nailing him to the cross?
Electric lights are easy, but you want the warmth of your old kerosene lamp. There are no friendly ghosts here to comfort you asleep. And tonight you will dream the sun is eclipsed and blows up and disappears forever.
Well, to me, it wasn't one way.
What happened to you, Nellie, when you moved in?
When we first moved into our house, I felt like I was lost. I had nothing to do, just sit around and watch TV.
One of you said, the village looks like a battlefield after a war. Old belongings and old hands will no longer be friends. A strange quiet settles over the village until cleanup begins. One lone bird interrupts the sounds of destruction. Will something more than the broken pieces of old dwellings and old habits be burned away today? Is it an alien wind that blows across a cold sun? What do you do with old hands unused to idleness? Where do you travel in the silent hours that stretch themselves into boredom? Well, some of you gather with old friends and talk about the old days. And yet it's not the easy times you remember, but rather those moments when food was gone and you struggled to stay alive at 40 below. And some of you visit with Grandmother Alawan and admire her new birch bark baskets and eat belik and look at old albums and remember the children of the past who now run the village. Jerry and Fiona, can you ever forget the first days in the new house? I remember you said the new house is 14 times bigger than the old one, where you gathered at the radio to hear the news of change.
That means Tyonek is rich.
You try the new washing machine with hands that still bear the marks of the scrub board. You once said your thermostat was a stick of birchwood. To you kids, it's a carnival and you're taking all the rides. Well, it seems there's one of you who doesn't care for the ride. Like Bonnie and Ray, some of you dance your celebration at the new snack bar. And little Jenny, you once crouched on the church floor on Good Friday, but on this day you discover French fries and ice cream. Will you ever eat your balik again?
Jenny? Eat your balik, Jenny. Jenny.
Dream your dreams, little one. We'll not see you again till you grow up, but we'll save this moment when you are caught between the old ways and the new. While time passes and Jenny grows, the new ways continue. And you, Albert, have led your village from poverty to plenty, and you are important to native people and to orthodoxy. You assist Father Askolkov in dedicating the new foundation for the church. From now on, this will be holy ground. Your importance takes you to Washington to talk with BIA Chief Bennett, Secretary Udall, and leaders of other tribes, and you feel the pride of other native people for their cultures. And when you come home, you talk of reviving the potlatch. You build a fire, and you dance in the old ceremonial clothes. Later on, you go to Anchorage for an important meeting. It is the night of September 12, 1966. You go down 4th Avenue to the hotel where native friends gather. And then, it happens. And no one will ever understand the forces that turn loose an arsonist to burn the hotel and snuff out your dreams. Violet, your wife, brings you home. The village watches, not able to understand, not able to accept the knowledge that you would never carry out your dreams. And yet, as you approach your old house, the village remembers your words.
If and when we hit oil, we want to use our money to further the native people of Alaska.
When you died, the dream died with you. For oil was never found on the reservation. Mama Kaloa, your son Albert was to inherit the medicine bag of his grandmother. It is filled with the magic of bird beaks, claws, and feathers, and bits of fur and bone. Now you will destroy it, while you remember the stories of ancient healers who wore the head of a Nikta and shook the bird-beak rattles to heal a wounded warrior. So a time and a dream has ended, and several years after Albert's death, you, Emil, remember the first days of oil exploration.
One day I walked down where one of the oil companies drilled the first well, and where Alcoa, Ed Crota, and I were ordered off the drilling rig. And I'm not sure whether or not we would have been better off if they had found oil.
So the rigs and the pipe back down and are hauled away on barges, and people begin to wonder what has happened to them. Some of you gather at Sergei's to sing Tubughna songs. And in your face, Sergei, there is a sense of joy in the memory of old ways. The years slip away, and great dreams of wealth die. But hope is still alive for you who are young and who take your vows in marriage. "200 years ago in Russian America, you might have worn a gown like this. Hope continues in the blessing of baptism. Hey, you don't sound too hopeful. But your father, Fred Bismarck, invests his hope in a barge business with an old landing craft that is lost in a storm. Then he tries an air service that doesn't pay enough to keep it alive. With a market in Japan, Kodiak Lumber tries a chip mill on the reservation. then prices fall and the mill shuts down. At that time, Agnes Brown, president of Tyonek Native Corporation, and Emma McCord, village administrator, fly over the tundra to see Benno Patch, project engineer for Placer Amex, the company that is testing coal discovered near the village. Agnes, you and Emil want to see the coal for yourselves and try to determine what it will mean to the village.
Right here where we're standing, for example, 10 feet below the surface, there's a 30-foot coal seam. And there are 2 other seams below it, and you'll be able to see this coal.
Will it look like this when the giant drag lines open up the tundra? Will a new town be built for the workers and a highway to bring the world to the village? And the moose and the fish, will they disappear? Will there still be a place for you who love the old ways? Change is slower now, but you have a new post office.
Bye, Tanya.
And you don't walk very much anymore. But your heart still beats with the poetry of earth. These are your words, Beverly.
Hey, sunshine, your smile brightens the sky like a fresh scent of roses in the wind.
One welcome change is the Tribal Center, a kind of poetry in pine,
We have 4 line items to finish.
where school children of the 60s run the affairs of the village. Like you, Emil Jr.,
Yeah, 2 weeks. Okay.
Ken McCord. You too were a child of the 60s. Now you administer a village, but your heart returns to the old ways in the words you have written about the great land where the summer sun burns at midnight.
Nature is our retreat. Her heart pounds beneath our feet. And to her mercy we must fall like the leaf of a tree in autumn. Her story will not go untold, for in our hearts we will hold the future of our world so terribly old.
Some old ways never change. Men like you, Chad, will continue to hunt as long as there are moose, as long as you can walk. Susanna Lee, why does a young Tubughna girl flesh the hide of a moose?
I thought I was losing touch with my culture, and I wanted to, get back in touch with it. So I thought curing and tanning a moose hide would be a good way to do that, a good start.
Your world continues to change, but you, Frank, teach your son to fish. It is the oldest of the old ways. Grandmother Alawan, in your 80s you bend with the seasons, like the salmon you make ready for the smokehouse. It is tradition. It is the old way. It is your life. You, Saba, enjoy an old way that goes back before history. It is the sweat bath, and it will continue as long as there are people like you. It is as important as the salmon that are running now. Today, Fred, you get us up at 4 to hunt beluga whale. There's a heavy run of salmon and the beluga are feeding. So you head for the river, and you wait for the whale to follow the salmon on the incoming tide. Then the sighting as the whale comes up to breathe. And the chase. you need the power of 2 boats to get you and the whale home. Then you haul it ashore and prepare to cut it up for the village. And Peter, you win the flipper for the first vital shot. After the whale hunt, Fred, you and Tanya invite us to your fish camp for salmon and rice. We talk about the future of old ways of hunting and fishing, and the native land claims that were to be settled in 1991. But now it is 1984, as I listen to some of your thoughts.
By 1991, they start taxing the people here. I don't know if they're going to have enough income to keep the taxes up on the land or not.
But what about subsistence, Fred? A lot of people feel Alaska natives should not have any special privileges.
Well, my feeling is that I've lived on it for all the years I've been on Cook Inlet. Just like some farm boy raised on a farm, you know, he likes fresh eggs and he likes fresh chicken, fresh pork. And the Indians, they're about the same. They like fresh fish, fresh meat, and I think if they take subsistence away from us, they're taking our life away from us.
But if I remember correctly, Governor Bill Egan made a promise about subsistence back in '73.
Let me assure you that the state's commitment to preserving subsistence capability in our fish and game resources is of the first priority and will continue to be. Continuing attention to the need for maintaining subsistence capability is an integral part of the state's overall fish and game management program. It always has been, is now, and will be so in the future.
Fred, if we have a major financial crisis after you're gone, what do you think will happen to your children?
They can survive by themselves now. They can survive even if I should pass on today or tomorrow. They can survive for the rest of their lives.
As life geared to survival disappears, many of you young people are cut off from following the ways of your parents. Some of you seek relief from boredom in a game room or a snack bar. Some of you find small jobs until you decide what to do with your lives. Like you, young lady, who are about to graduate from high school and you are selling ice cream to pay some of your expenses. How can we ever forget your love affair with French fries and ice cream? You are Little Jenny. Little Jenny, grown up. Your class picture is in the album, along with your friend Cindy, who let us take a tiny peek at a day in her life at the new school, a school you can find in most small towns in America. Some of you who have yet to graduate, will you stay here? Will you live in the village?
There are some reasons why I wouldn't like to live here. Because it's real isolated out here. There ain't too many jobs around here.
I don't think I'd like to live here all my life, but I would like to come back here to Tyonek and teach.
I wouldn't like to live here all my life because I know it'll be changing.
You who suffer from a denial of your culture may seek release in violence. Some of you seek for that release in the bars of Anchorage. And some of you feel a pain from the loss of a language that once spoke the wisdom of nature. But our story is for you, the little ones. Any hope for a better life is in your hands. I'll bet it's delicious. But you must excuse us now, for Sava is coming to our house to see Joe. and his heart is full of memories of the past.
Dena'ina Athabascan.
You sing of a moment when you were a child. It is winter, and the mountains are white and cold and still. And a little bird comes to your window looking for food. And then it flies away.
I can finish it.
At last, the need to sing and dance the old dances brings back the potlatch, where you, Maxim, beat the ancient plank drum of the Tubughna. Bonnie McCord, president of the Tribal Council, you dedicate the potlatch to the future leaders of the village.
This past year, the youth of Tyonek have become quite involved in the prevention of alcohol and drugs among their own.
We can really do something about the future. The teenagers of today, they can change the way we live now. They can start up programs to help stop drug and alcohol in the village and make the village a better place to live.
Drinking did something to my brother, which could happen to you someday. If you care for your wives, husband, children, grandchildren, as much as you say you do, then why do you set such a bad example for them?
The children of this village are our future leaders. If they keep on sniffing gas and taking drugs, our culture and heritage will all be gone.
Many people say I don't have an alcohol problem, but you do. And what is this going to do for the kids who will live and be leaders of the village a few years from now? This place will be no more. All that the kids want to do is follow in their parents' footsteps. All we are asking is give us a chance.
The young are dancing now, a kind of prayer for a spirit of new hope. Oh, Sergei, how your body loves the rhythm of the old songs. But the crowning moment of the potlatch is yours, Sava, for you create a new dance never seen before, and it will be remembered in the true spirit of the old ways. Not long after the potlatch, winter comes in its time. Then Christmas and starring, a ritual of orthodoxy and Tubughna life. Pete, Emil, Sergei. You and the families are here in another celebration of birth. Peter Mikuliak, you tell the story of a star carried through the night 8,000 miles from Bethlehem.
One of you asked tonight, why do we go starring and singing from house to house? The reason goes back all the way to the beginnings of the celebration of Christmas in the church. And when we go from house to house, we're following in the footsteps of the shepherds. And this is one of the secrets of the life in Christ, the sharing of the joy with each other.
If you happen to be passing by and look through the window, you might see a Madonna and Child and a star turning in the night. Up here, where sorrows and sad memories are buried, there's a kind of cleansing of the spirit when the sun shines on a fresh snow. It is nearly spring, Sava, as you climb the hill to visit your old friend, Sergei. Most of your friends have found their peace up here, but down below, the children are alive and playing in the village. Yet I can't help wondering where they'll be when they grow up and look at this old album full of the people who gave them life.
Where are the children? Where do they play today? before them, forgetting what they've learned, forgetting where they've been. Oh God of the forest and the sky and the sea and me, teach us to be one with you again. Teach us how to see. Teach us to be one with you again. You fed us when the world was free. You fed us when the world was free. You fed us when the world was free.
A new summer will soon be here. New children will be born, and new songs will be sung in the land of the Tubughna.